Before we start this video, I just gotta talk about something first. So y'all remember when I made that IGN video? Well, funny enough, a few days afterwards, IGN made a video of them saying Sonic was always good. And one of the dudes who were in the Scoop video apologized about what they said. So, did my video gain a lot of attention right to the fact where IGN saw the video? If not, then what of the timing? Guess I have the power to change people. Now I feel very proud, but anyways, on to the show.
Hey everyone! Well, after 2 years of waiting, Sonic Prime is finally here.
Seems like the Sonic Renaissance of 2022 has officially come to a close, because we've had Sonic Movie 2, Sonic Origins, of course Sonic Frontiers, and now Sonic Prime. We had 4 Sonic stuff this year. This might probably be the only year we get this amount of stuff. I'd love to see another year where we get even more Sonic media. Well, we're already starting to get some more next year because we have the new DLC coming to Sonic Frontiers. And in 2024, we're getting Sonic Movie 3. Now, along with Sonic Movie 2 and Sonic Frontiers, Prime was probably one of the biggest things I was looking forward to this year. Origins was okay, but Movie 2, Frontiers, and Prime are what I was mostly hyped for. Because it has been a while since we've had a Sonic TV show. We had Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic Underground, which sucked by the way. We had Sonic X, which was great, and Sonic Boom, which was hysterical. So now we have a new one, which is a Netflix original, which is probably not the greatest idea, considering Netflix is just not the best place to watch stuff. But still, Prime is finally here, and now I finally get to talk about it because they released 8 episodes of the show on Netflix, and while that wasn't really enough I was hoping for, I was able to watch all the episodes. So now, we're not going to talk about all the episodes, we're just going to talk about some of them, and I'll just give you all my thoughts on what I think of the series as a whole. I mean, well, not like the whole series, because we might get more stuff related to the show later along the line, but we're just here to talk about the show like as of right now and what I think of it. Now, if you have the memory of a god like me, you'd remember that they announced Sonic Prime on Twitter back on December of 2020, and they took down the announcement right afterwards because they probably thought they announced it a little too early. Now, when I first heard about this, I lost it. I completely lost it. Just like how I did when Smash Bros. Ultimate was announced back in 2018. Because while y'all know me as the Sonic fan, I was of course really hyped for it. And yeah, I love the games and all, but I also really loved the Sonic TV shows growing up because I watched a lot of them. I mostly watched Sonic X when it was on 4Kids and on the CW 4Kids as well. And yep, Sonic X has just been in my head ever since I was little. And then Sonic Boom came out, and while the games were certainly a bust, the show was actually pretty great in terms of quality. While the show mostly just went for humor and stuff like that and didn't really go for like dark stories or anything, it really got a laugh out of me. While the show just mostly went for comedy and not like anything too serious, it was still enjoyable to watch. I mean, I was like a little bit young back when Sonic Boom as a TV show came out. I think it came out in like 2015, and yeah, I remember just having a blast with that show. Not as much as I did with Sonic X, but Sonic Boom was at least tolerable. The TV show, not the games. And now we have Sonic Prime. It's finally here, and I saw the first 8 episodes, and they left me with a lot of feelings, but mostly good and very little of bad feelings. But that's what we're here to talk about, so let's get into it. First, you know we gotta talk about the animation. Sonic and his pals are just the most fluid and expressive that they have ever been in the series. On top of that, I especially love how detailed the characters look. I mean, look at this shot, and look at Sonic. You could see like some of the fur on him, and we haven't really seen this much detail in a Sonic game for a while now. And this was of course mentioned a lot, but I'll say it again anyway. The characters have this very squash and stretch looking animation to them, which is of course great because it really fits with the tone of the show. I mean, Sonic's of course the fastest thing alive, and this kind of animation perfectly fits. The squash and stretch certainly makes this show feel a lot more lively, which is why I prefer cartoons over live action. They're just much more fun to watch. I guess most of the budget for the show went into the animation, because it just looks spectacular. That's not to say that everything else in the show is bad. Everything is great, but the animation certainly sticks out the most. Now that we've gotten the animation out of the way, let's get into the actual show itself. We'll of course first talk about the story. So the premise of this show is that Eggman is trying to get his hands on this crystal called the Paradox Prism so he can use it to take over the world. And of course, Sonic and company are trying to stop him, but then Sonic purposely spin dashes into the crystal and it messes up everything. As for what the crystal does, it basically sends Sonic into different time periods. First, Sonic gets sent to this electrical city place called New York City. And yeah, I guess you can already tell who made it. I guess these are different universes where Sonic never existed. Along with New York City, Sonic also gets transported to this jungle area. Getting plenty of Tarzan and Jungle Book vibes from all of this. And finally, he gets sent to the Seven Seas where he meets these very vast pirates, which are of course based off his friends. And while Sonic is traveling through these areas, he of course tries to find ways to fix the Paradox Prism so he can return home. I really do enjoy the whole multiverse thing that they're going on for this show. The story may not be anything too groundbreaking or anything, but it's still really enjoyable to watch. And while the show does take itself seriously at times, there are other times where it just feels like a complete joke. Literally. Most of the time, Sonic acts like a complete goofball throughout the series. And I don't really find that much of an issue because it's part of his character. He's just a bit of a sassy, klutz goofball, and I've always loved Sonic for his personality. He just has great character, as well as all the others in the show as well. Granted, I feel Sonic shouldn't really act too childish throughout the series and of course in the games, but most of the time it's just great to see him make jokes and just do these sort of things. But I also do love when he takes things seriously, while also being a bit of a sassy doof. And I also love the sprite shows that they got going on for this show. It really shows like how much they know about the games themselves and just how great they were. Well, most of them. But I'm pretty sure most of us fans are tired of seeing some of the 2D throwback kind of stuff because that's pretty much all Sega and Sonic Team do nowadays, but thankfully they kind of did let them go for a while. But at least this show still kept in touch with them. And as for the jokes in the show, some of them had me rolling my eyes a bit, while some others actually got me to chuckle. My favorite joke has to be where Sonic is talking about Shadow, and then he says, "Shadow roller skates," and after that, Shadow says, "They're air shoes." That certainly got a laugh out of me. I just love how all of the characters have more personality than ever. It's funny, because they haven't really been doing much of that before, but lately they've been doing it a lot. Although, Shadow smiling, yeah, that's kind of creepy, not gonna lie. So yeah, I just really love what most of the show has to offer. The writing, the characters, the worlds, everything. And Ian Flynn is actually involved, who produced the IDW comics and made the writing and somewhat of the story for Sonic Frontiers. So yeah, that's really great. Alright, so now that we've gotten most of the positives out of the way, let's start talking about some of the stuff that have me concerned for this show. And there's quite a bit of it, so let's get into them. This first one's not really much of an issue for me personally, but I feel while watching some of the episodes of the show, I've noticed that it was a little bit too kid-friendly. Because while I did like some of the jokes in the episodes, I feel they kind of dragged on a little bit too much. And the show does take itself seriously at times, but other times it's mostly Sonic just cracking up jokes. And I actually remember when people were complaining that the show was rated TVY7. It basically means that the show is for all ages, but mostly for children. Now, of course, most companies these days just target for kids mostly, and not really for like us as teens or adults and stuff like that. And that's especially a problem with Netflix, because I feel nowadays they just mostly make a lot of generic kid shows, much like all the other TV companies nowadays. Prime wasn't too kid-friendly, but I just feel they at least should tone it like down a bit with like the children's stuff, and at least get a little more violent and serious at times. Like, not completely violent, because Sonic isn't supposed to be violent, obviously, but at least make it a little more serious at times. It doesn't always have to be cracking up jokes every time. It does have me worried because I feel this might be a repeat of the meta era. Basically, the era where we had games like Colors, Generations, Lost World, Forces. And it really doesn't help with the fact that the story in the show feels a tad cliched, along with the fact that they kind of rely a little too much on the flashbacks. Like in the first few episodes, I remember that at the beginning, it mostly showed what happened before Sonic shattered the Paradox Prism, and while it was kind of good, I just kind of got tired of it after the first few times. I mean, you could do it like once or twice, but after that, it just feels like it's run dry. And I feel they made the story a little bit too easy for kids to understand, because I usually like some of those games and like stories in games where it's a little hard to understand, because as you advance through, you actually get to know more about it. But in some shows like maybe like Prime, they just reveal the plot of the show and episodes just a little bit too easily. And with the whole Sonic traveling through time and space thing, that has kind of already been done before. At least with Prime, it goes more in depth than anything that they did in Generations. And now for the biggest problem that I have with the show, and I feel some of you guys might know what it is. Why does this show only have 8 episodes? Like, I don't get it. Why are there only 8? Why did they just release this little amount after all the time I've been waiting for the show? Why?
I've been hearing that they want people to watch the show now because Netflix usually checks to see if new shows they release are good, which I can't imagine is the case because Netflix makes lots of bad shows. I mean, this was the only Netflix original I ever cared for, of course, because it was Sonic. But yeah, they basically wait a while to make sure that the show is good, then they could think about renewing it for a new season or something.
But here's the problem. When a new show or a game releases, it's better to release all the content as the start of its release. Why do we have to wait to get more stuff when all of it should have just been there from the start? And like I said earlier, I've been looking forward to watching this show ever since it was announced, and now that it's here, it's just very anticlimactic that we only get 8 episodes and not more, or the whole series at that.
By the time we get new episodes for it, I doubt anybody is going to care for the new episodes when they probably already just separated from the show. It's such a buzzkill right when the 8th episode ended. I was just really getting into the action of the show, but sadly it ended. For a while.
They want the show to get more views, but waiting a while to release new content isn't going to help in any way. If you want the show to succeed, then release everything from the start.
Don't be like Nintendo, where they release new DLC for games several weeks after the release date for the game, expecting people to care for it when we've already moved on from the game. If the show doesn't succeed, which I hope it does, then they'll cancel it. But what good is canceling the show that doesn't attract much attention when you're the ones who don't give much attention to it from the very beginning? Release all the episodes that you plan to make, that way the show can gain popularity, but when you only release a few episodes and wait several months or weeks to add the new ones, people are most likely not going to give it the attention you want it to get. If all the episodes were there, then the show would be a success, but it surely won't be if there's only 8 episodes we have to watch so far until whenever you decide to release new ones. And it especially doesn't help that episode 8 ended on such a cliffhanger, with Shadow punching the living crap out of Sonic.
And apparently people are mad that Prime is somehow canon to the Sonic series. I wish I was joking. It's really confusing on what is canon in the Sonic universe. Are they mad because Prime feels kind of out of place in the series? I personally don't think it's much of an issue, because so what if it's canon? It's something that would obviously try to happen in the series, and I just don't understand why people are upset that it's canon. Is it because of how Sonic acts in Prime, where he's a bit of a goofball and sassy and just funny like how he was in the 2 Sonic movies? Personally, I don't really care for what's canon or not in the Sonic series. Anything happens and just happens. Like, any Sonic fan could know about it. It doesn't have to be canon or anything. If Prime is canon, then so what? It's canon. Alright, well that's pretty much all my thoughts on Sonic Prime. So overall, I think the show is really fantastic and I think it's doing great. But why only release 8 episodes? Like, us Sonic fans were looking forward to Prime, but you only release 8 episodes? Just why? Give me a specific answer. But I'll still continue to have hope in the show, even though if I have to wait, like, several months just to watch new episodes. So be sure to let me know what you guys think of Sonic Prime in the comments. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Because, yeah, you all heard my thoughts, but now I want to hear yours. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.